start our meeting, the January 7th, 2019 Clayton County Board meeting. It is now 6:04 p.m. And would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will now read the ethics statement. In accordance with Board Policy BH, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of such conflicts. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict with respect to any matter of schedule to come before the board at this meeting or appearing on the proposed agenda? If so, identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from participation in the matter involved. Seeing none, we will move on. Do we have any recognitions at this time, Dr. Peterson? All right, at this time, I need a motion to adopt the agenda. We're not using our clickers tonight, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. I want to do that. All right. Ms. Marie.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Ms. Baker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. All right, next, we will do board recognitions.
So we'll ask the board if they would come down front for the board recognition, please. While the board is coming down, we would ask that all individuals, or that the individuals of school leadership, either principal, assistant principal, perhaps PBIS, the representatives for the schools that were contacted regarding PBIS schools recognition, if you would please line up along the far wall at this time. Dr. Sandra Nunez, if she would join the board up front. PBIS, or Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, is a proactive approach to establishing the behavioral supports and social structure needed for students to achieve social, emotional, and academic success. In Clayton County Public Schools, PBIS is a team-based approach which is designed for PBIS teams to meet monthly to implement school-wide strategies aimed at minimizing behavior and discipline issues. Schools applying PBIS establish clear behavior expectations, teach and model those behaviors in all settings, conduct data-based decision-making to address school-wide behavior, and acknowledge students and staff for exhibiting the appropriate behaviors. Between the school years 2016-17 and 2017-18, the PBIS schools in Clayton County experienced the following change in behavior and discipline trends. Office referrals were decreased by 30%. In-school suspension days were decreased by 23.6%. And out-of-school suspension days decreased by 32.8%. It should be noted that that decrease represents going from a number of out-of-school suspension days of 12,411 to 8,343. There were 14 schools in our district that achieved operational status. The Georgia Department of Education recognizes district and schools for supporting positive school climate through the implementation of a PBIS framework. The purpose of the recognition is to identify schools that exemplify best practices in implementation of PBIS. Operational status is the third highest level of recognition presented by the Georgia Department of Education. We have 14 schools that have achieved that level. Please come forward and remain up front until all names are called. Adamson Middle School. Bath Middle School. Callaway Elementary School. Eddie White Academy K-8. Forest Park Middle School. Forest Park High School. Marshall Elementary School. Morrow High School. Mundy's Mill Middle School. Mundy's Mill High School. North Clayton Middle School. Northcutt Elementary School. Roberts Middle School. South Metro Ash Street Center. One other note while everyone is shaking hands. It should be noted that the savings to the district, that the reduction of the office discipline referrals reported is almost $130,000 to the district. As soon as Mr. Gilchrist runs the line, we're going to invite all of you to come back to the front and stand with the board for a well-deserved photograph and recognition. Come on back. Come on back. Now, we know there are some folks out there who might be taking pictures, but the district photograph is going to be taken by Ron up at the top in the balcony. So if you'll look at that direction. Ronald, have you got a good shot?
I'm good. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Right here on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Gonna hold for one more. 1, 2, and 3. Thank y'all.
the Board of Education welcomes public participation and will hear any interested individual pursuant to the guidelines outlined by policy BCBI. Members of the public will not be allowed to discuss individual personal issues or confidential student matters. Speakers must identify themselves and topics before speaking. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak, and time that may not be yielded from one speaker to another. Board members will not respond to comments from speakers. The chairman may respond as appropriate. Issues requiring possible action by the board may be added to a future agenda. Issues that may need to be addressed by the administration will be duly noted. Abusive language and/or personal attacks will not be permitted. Individuals addressing the board must at all times adhere to the civility policy. All right. Our first person on the agenda to speak is Brenda Harrison. Would you please come up, Ms. Harrison? And Charles will be the time. 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Board, Superintendent. I'm Brenda Harrison, Clayton County resident, unincorporated Clayton County. There are 3 things I'd like to address to this board tonight, and they're dealing with changes. One being student security. I have a real serious issue with the fact that just about anybody can walk off of our streets into our schools. Now, I've heard, oh, we've got metal detectors, oh, they get buzzed in, blah, blah, blah. But I've been right there and watched people get buzzed in, and they did not go to the office to sign in or get a name badge. And I've seen that repeatedly. What I would like to see done for our students is identification that they must wear on their body. That way, anybody who has entered a school should be able to be identified as a student of that particular school. Right now, we've got people walking around our schools and classrooms that are not supposed to be there. We've got to fix that, folks. The next thing, I talked about this a couple of years ago. Then I was told, well, we're going to work on this. I have a major problem with a sign that's right in front of one of our buildings. And that sign says, Clayton County Public Schools, Homeless Education. In big, bold letters in front of a building that is in front of a high school. I love the program. I love meeting Miss Sonia Davis. We hang out at the amphitheater and play, do the music. I love her and her program. But to advertise what is going on in that building is unacceptable. And I've talked to the superintendent about it, and I've been told little things, well, we'll have a contest to change the name, or we'll do this. That sign needs to be changed, and it needs to be changed now. We are parading these participants on Facebook. Now, I'm told, oh, they don't have a problem with it. The participants don't have a problem with it. But they should. And we should not be parading them out here in the public because there's situations we all can be in that particular predicament. And who wants the world to know?
No, you got 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. That was a third thing, but I got so excited with Jasmine here until I forgot what the third thing was. But I'm not giving up on this sign this time. I'm going to stay vocal, and we need identification for our students because the security is not working. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Next, we will have DeMont Davis. All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, we'll call you up. All right. Next, we will have on our agenda the recognition of our public officials by Mr. Christmas.
We'd like to recognize Felicia Franklin, Warren County Commissioner. Mark Davis, County Commissioner. Clayton County. Valencia Stovall, State Representative. Gregory, Commissioner. Currently, R. Dub. Fulton County School Board, Sandra Scott, State Representative. Kim Schofield, State Representative. Rhonda Burnham, State Representative. Renee Knight, City Councilwoman. Alfred Dixon, Jonesboro Council. Tim Hines, President of Clayton State. Dietrich Sapp, Clayton County Board of Commissioners. Who we have tonight? Thank you, man.
I'm sorry, if there's anyone that we miss, who did we miss? Mayor? Oh, Mayor Dar. Please stand. All right, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the election of board officers. At this time, I need nominations for board chair. Mr. Christmas.
I'd like to nominate Jesse Goree for the board chair. Jesse Goree.
All right. Ms. Johnson.
At this time, I would like to, first of all, thank you very much. I'd like to decline that position at this time.
All right, at this time, are there any more nominations for board chair at this time? All right, at this time, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of Ms. Goree, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please raise your hands high. All right, and we have, that's a 9-member vote. I just want to thank you all so much. Our nominations for board vice chair. Ms. Johnson. Are there any other nominations to the floor? Second motion. Okay. All right, all in favor of Dr. Anderson, please raise your hand. All right, any opposed? We also have another 9-member vote. Yeah, when we come back, we're going to go into executive session. But I just want to say it took us a long time to get here, but we're here now. We're going to work together as a board, and you're going to be seeing a lot of 9-member votes because we are the Clayton County Board of Education.
In our case, at this time, I need a motion to approve the discussion on acquisition of real estate. Mary Baker.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation for easement from Ontario Elementary School from the Clayton County Water Authority.
Do I have a second? Mr. Christmas?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the easement in front of Terra Elementary School. At this time, can I have everyone that is in favor, please say aye. Are there? Looks like we have 9, sure. Are there, don't have anybody that opposed, okay. At this time, can I get a motion regarding the personnel department? I see Mr. Schrader.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent for renewal parent 2018-2019
Do I have a second? I see Mr. Christmas.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation. All of those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. That's 7 in favor. Are there any opposed? Like sign. I'm opposed. That's 1. We have 1 instance, and we have 1 instance. Okay, that's 7, 1. Okay. Also, we had a discussion about legal counsel pertaining to litigation. I don't think we need a motion for that, but I'm sorry. I just want to let you all know I'm a little nervous here. Okay. Right along, because I do know the national championship is being played tonight. I want to say that's a hint for anyone that's coming before us to do a presentation. All right, at this time, we are going to have announcements from the Vice Chair, Dr. Anderson.
Good evening, board members, district administrators, and citizens of Clayton County. Here are the announcements for the month of January. This month serves as a celebration of Life Month and National Mentoring Month. Students will return to school on Tuesday, January 8th, for the start of the second semester for the 2018-2019 school year. Students enrolled in the K.R. Pace Elementary School of the Arts will report to their new location on Tuesday, January 8th. The new location is in the Fine Arts Magnet Wing on the campus of the M.D. Roberts Middle School on Walt Stevens Road. The Stillwell School of the Arts will present the musical, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, at the district's Performing Arts Center in Jonesboro. Performances are set for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, January 17th, 18th, and 19th at 7:30 p.m. for the general public. A special performance for students is scheduled for Thursday, January 18th at 10 o'clock a.m. Ticket information is available at 770-472-2838. Again, 770-472-2838, and on the district's website. The district will observe the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on Monday, January 21st. All schools and offices will be closed. On Thursday, January 24th at 7 p.m., the district will honor a number of exceptional employees during the annual Evening with the Stars celebration at the Performing Arts Center. Special recognition will be given to the district teachers to the District Teacher of the Year, Principal of the Year, Support Leader of the Year for both certified and classified personnel, and Support Professionals of the Year for both certified and classified personnel. The 2019 Clayton Reed's Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl will take place Saturday, January 26th at Kendrick Middle School. Teams representing students in grades 4 through 12 will compete for top honors. The Reading Bowl will begin at 9 o'clock a.m. Pending final approval of the tentative board calendar, the next board work session will be on Monday, January 28th at 6 o'clock p.m. That will be held here for Tuesday, January 29th at the District's Performing Arts Center in Jonesboro. The presentation is scheduled to begin at 6 o'clock p.m. Next, the district-wide spelling bee is scheduled for Thursday, January 31st at the Performing Arts Center on Mount Zion Parkway. The spelling bee begins at 9 o'clock a.m. Superintendent Dr. Maurice Beasley will hold the first in a series of real talk sessions for parents and guardians of students attending Clayton County Public Schools on Saturday, February 2nd at the Performing Arts Center in Jonesboro. The topic for this session, which is scheduled to begin at 8 o'clock a.m., is school choice. Pending final approval of the tentative board at the calendar, the February board meeting will be held here in the boardroom on Monday, February 4th at 6 o'clock p.m. Madam Chair and citizens of Clayton County, this concludes tonight's announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. At this time, I want to make one quick announcement. Dr. Beasley has received another honor. I would like to let you all know that Dr. Beasley is the 2019 recipient of the Pinnacle Award. It used to be given by my chapter, but it's now given by a board. And I would like you all to salute him. So he was also the valedictorian. At this time, we need to approve the minutes from the board work session, November 26, 2018. Have we all looked at that? And do we have any corrections at this time? All right. Also, the minutes from the board meeting December 3rd, 2018. All right, I think that, Sherry, I don't think we need a vote on those since we don't have any changes, so they will be separate. Okay, thank you.
If there is no objection.
Okay. All right. It is time for updates to the board. Updates to the board. Advanced learning, Dr. Ebony Lee.
It raises the standard, and it truly reflects a genuine commitment to higher performance for our students and for our school district. So this is the slide here. And so I would like to just acknowledge some of the close details to the work, school leadership and the CIA team members. There was, with professional learning, we knew that building capacity and training would be essential. And so we put together a very solid training plan to ensure that our teachers and our leaders and our parents, everyone understands what this will entail. And so at this time, I would like to quickly acknowledge two of our national and international partners. We have College Board here, as well as NIMSI. And so we have Randy Sapp with College Board and Kim Saline with NIMSI. And let's through the leadership of Chris McKee, they've been doing a lot of training, even holding Saturday academies, not only for teachers, but for students to build their capacity, examining student work, giving feedback. So again, that's been very helpful. In student services, our collaboration with student services was critical to ensure that even as we roll out advanced and accelerated learning, the individualized education program plans really drive and govern what we're providing services for our students with disabilities, and as well as making sure that our students who need language assistance services, that they're receiving those services. So we will still have co-teaching model, we will still have support courses as well, but we will be accelerating while scaffolding along the way. So the intervention of remediation has proven over and over that it's not the best process. So we want to make sure we're accelerating and scaffolding simultaneously. And so very quickly on the what, just so that everyone here is clear, phase one will include the following two additions. The rising sixth graders will be enrolled into accelerated grades in mathematics, so that by grade 8, they are ready for Algebra 1, or better positioned for Algebra 1. That also gives them time in high school to have time in their schedule for more advanced courses of study in mathematics. And we know Algebra 1 is truly the most prevalent type of math on our SAT and ACT. So we definitely want to make sure that our students are ready. Additionally, our rising ninth graders will take at least one advanced placement course and one CTAE pathway course. Another support that's been provided from College Board and NIMSI is the selection of the advanced placement courses that will be most appropriate for rising ninth graders, since they're also being adjusted to being in ninth grade. And then finally, the support. The support will be critical, and we understand that. One will be the communication of the why. And I think Dr. Beasley has done a commendable job of just speaking to all stakeholders that in order to be a high-performing district, we all must be high-performing. And so those various communication modes will be critical to the rollout, professional learning, and you see the very first bullet speaks to growth mindset, just that belief that we can do it and our students will rise to the expectations, and then a variety of resources will be provided. So that's pretty much the high level, the why, the what, and then the how we're providing the support. So at this time, I'd like to quickly show the video. The video shows various audience members speaking to the benefits of advanced placement. And again, he worked with our high school. She selected parents who are advanced placement students to speak, as well as teachers and students to share their experiences. So we would like to share that, and I'll take questions. When we think of culture, we think about what's the norm. And so for our school district, we're excited to share the measures that we're taking to cultivate a culture of high performance. We are moving beyond traditional educational practices. We want to ensure that more of our students have access to accelerated and advanced learning experiences, because it's within these classrooms that our students' critical thinking, creativity, communication, and adaptation skills are developed. Students who apply themselves to rigorous coursework open themselves up to growing in critical thinking, collaborating with innovative people and practices, and learning how to organize their future.
You learn many skills. Become more prepared to handle harder challenges. As the workload is harder, they can have the challenge that they wouldn't have otherwise, and they can grow exponentially beyond the peers with whom they're going to be competing against.
To see him really be challenged to be his best has really been remarkable. Classes that he's taking are rigorous. However, he feels prepared. He feels confident that he can be successful in those classes, even before going to college.
Enrollment definitely taught me to mature quicker. It made me more independent. It taught me that college might not always be easy, but it's important to keep a strong support system around you and give it all that you have.
A lot of times whenever students are faced with a more difficult course, it's kind of like walking on thin ice. They're not quite sure where to go, so they need that direction. The fact that they have somebody there to help them through it, the fact that they can see successes, that helps to build that motivation.
While you're trying to balance high school and games and fun and clubs, while also trying to balance those grades, definitely takes time management. I had to get a planner.
I used to procrastinate a lot, and it's been really stressful. Because with AP classes, procrastination will lead you to fail, especially when it's more than one.
He has become very organized. His sensitivity or attentiveness, I should say, to deadlines. He knows if he has an exam, he prepares himself.
AP, of course, we're going to get more work, it's more strenuous on the students' mind. More homework, more projects, harder tests.
I would say, take a deep breath and just understand and know that it's truly going to help your child.
When I speak to parents, a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm not sure exactly what I can do to assist them. And I always tell them, well, you're not taking the class, your child's taking the class. You're not expected to be the teacher, you're not expected to be the professor walking into the content. That's their role, but you can still be supportive at home.
And as a parent, I would encourage all parents to get in, to be involved, be a part, be a support to the school system, to the teachers, but most of all to your students.
Clayton County Public Schools has designed a centralized hub that pulls back the curtain and exposes what all students and parents need to know to start building that pathway toward a career. We're introducing the CCPS High Performance Platform. With a couple of clicks, parents and students are able to get information about advanced learning opportunities.
So quickly, everyone, by a show of hands, how many of you feel you could have been better prepared for college? And again, this process is not guaranteed at 100%, but more of our students will at least be able to say that they've had a college experience or even a quality work-ready experience prior to leaving our school system. And so this concludes my brief update. We'll take questions at this time.
Board members, yes, Ms. Baker.
Okay, I gave you a fair warning. I understand AP. I think if we can get more children prepared for it, it's great. I don't want to set children up for failure. And when I'm looking at the test scores and I'm showing that the children who get 3 and above, and that's what it takes to take it to college, at the state level it's at 61%, and ours is showing 19, but if you take out the top 3 classes, we're down at 11%. That tells me either the students aren't prepared or the teachers aren't teaching. And I don't want to set anybody up for failure. There's nothing worse than a child who thinks that they're getting a 98 in class, and then they take a test and they can't pass it. And again, that goes back to what was required, who was teaching, and there's a lot of kids out there who do really good in honors classes. They might not be ready for AP, and that might be emotional, maturity, might be what's going on at home. We don't know all that, and so as much as I like the idea, I think we need to be honest with ourselves. Let's face it, everybody in here can play football. Not all of us are going to make the varsity team. So, and just because I make the varsity team in one sport doesn't mean I'm going to make the other sport. So just because you can do it in math doesn't mean you're going to do it in English or vice versa. So I think we need to hold a lot of people responsible, because these kids are also needing this GPA to get that Hope Scholarship. And if they're failing out in AP class when they really could have been making it an honors class, I don't think that's fair to our students.
So thank you, Ms. Baker. And I will say, we've had that very conversation even in our planning sessions, really thinking through how do we consider the student as well as the quality of instruction in the classroom. And so even though, again, as I stated, we're not getting perfect implementation, but training will be critical. Honest conversations with even students and parents regarding why they benefit. And then based on research, the students who are even in an AP class, whether they make 3 or higher, they're better prepared for college, especially if they're better positioned for finishing, even if they score 1 or 2. However, our goal is for them to score their best. The research says the exposure and the access, but that is contingent upon having a rigorous course of study, which will be fostered by more ongoing training.
I have teachers tell me straight to my face, I had to dump this class down because I was going to be required to change grades. And that's not acceptable to dump it down for the kids who can't do it.
It's not, that's not an option. And the conversations that we had, and I heard even vividly, Christy and our partners, talking to teachers, wanting to find out from them, what is your perception of the ideal AT student? And that was, the response to that question was a barrier, because it was always the honors kids or the kids who come organized. But no, any student is willing to come in and get quality of instruction. And so a part of our work is changing the mindset of teachers of who can and who will do it based on our scaffolding and our support practices. So it's not that they're in college class, we just all hands off. We will support, you have to support them and help students believe that they can do as well. And so we're not unaware of those barriers that currently exist. We're just trying to work through it and elevate the expectations of our district.
Any other comments? Ms. Burns?
I'm very happy that you put those questions at the end because I was able to read through that and see. And I'm happy to see an opportunity. That's what I look at the whole thing as being. And what did you say it take me 2 or 3 years for it to level out? I looked at it as an opportunity that a lot of our students don't get because they feel that they can't do it. So that's my take on it. And I advise anybody to read the answers to the questions at the end.
You know, being worked out of the planning session, what will become the question that's being posed.
I think those are great comments, and I would just add that I hope that I love the opportunity for our students to be able to be involved. Also, I want us to address teachers. My daughter was in AP classes in high school, but she had teachers that really did not teach. The expectation was that, you're supposed to be an advanced student so they can really teach themselves. So, we really do need a different mindset, but I appreciate the opportunity that would be afforded to our students, and especially for getting back to some things that we actually once did in Clayton County schools, but we went away from. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it's okay. Please, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. At this time, we will have Student Support Services, Dr. Nunez. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Beasley. You should have received the CIS report, and I am here to respond to any questions that you have.
Are there any questions, board members? Dr. Nunez, thank you so much. Okay, at this point, we will have the consent agenda, and we will do this a little different. We're going to present it, and then once we finish, we will vote. Okay, the first person will be Ms. Emma Benson. Come on forward, Ms. Benson.
Good evening, everyone. To the members of the board. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Beasley, members of the board, and the community. The board has for review the November 2018 purchasing report. We have non-consumable purchases over $10,000 that are on page 1 of the report. That's A1. Are there any questions?
Any questions, board members?
Non-consumable purchases over $10,000 are listed on pages B1 through B3. Are there any questions?
I don't see any, Ms. Benton, go right ahead.
Report C contains 5 non-consumable purchases, and they're over $50,000. They're listed They require the board approval.
Are there any questions?
So in addition to the purchasing report, the board has a summary of the district's current financial status for November 2018. The financial reports include a statement of revenue and expenditures for the general fund, they're by source and by function. You have a current balance sheet and a statement of changes in fund balance. So if we can turn to the slide that has a the general fund budget comparison on it. So part of, we received a question from Ms. Gorey regarding our general fund balance. So as of the end of November 2018, and it is included in the financial report, our fund balance was negative $4.2 million as of November the 30th, 2018. And so Ms. Gorey was asking, was that indeed the fund balance? And so our fund balance was negative 4.2, but it was just as we expected it, which is why the board approved for a TAN, a tax anticipation note, back in the summer. So I'm happy to report that as of December the 31st, we paid the TAN, the tax anticipation note, $40 million to SunTrust. So we're glad we're done with that. We did receive our tax revenue from the county. All of the reports that I've listed for you guys are included as part of the consent agenda.
All right, can I get some clarity on that? Okay, so we were negative $4 million.
Yes.
Okay, you said we received the TAN, is that correct?
Yes.
And we paid the TAN off?
Yes.
So that was the 40 million, was it 40 million?
40 million.
Okay, we paid that off. So my question is, do we have any money in the fund balance?
We do.
And what's the amount?
So as of December, we have about 67 million, somewhere around in there. You'll see it when you do the December report, but we're in a good place. We received about 70 million in revenue from the county, and in addition, we received our state funds in December, the end of December.
Okay, you had me worried because it was looking like my bank account was looking after Christmas, so I was wondering what we might have had.
Well, and it's important because we have new board members. Remember when we approved the budget, you all approved for us to get a $40 million TAN, which is a tax annuity note, because we knew that the property taxes would be collected in the late fall and start rolling in. And so, as Ms. Benton shared, we went clearly into our funds, and now we're very glad that our tax funds have been received, so we're looking pretty good. But we anticipated that, and that's why we got the low. And we'll continue, so everyone will know, we'll continue to do a TAN until we get to a point wherein our fund balance is so healthy that we don't have to do a TAN.
And when do you anticipate that happening?
Well, that's a yearly assessment. When we, at the end of every year, we look at our fund balance.
So definitely not in 2019?
Probably not, because we're not there yet.
We are doing some pre-planning on the FY19. We are doing some pre-planning on the FY19, FY20 budget, and when we get further along in the budgeting process, we'll have a clear picture of what the needs are going to be.
So our main focus is going to be cash flow, am I correct? That's what's actually making us go into that temporary loan, am I correct?
That is correct.
Right. How can we get ahead on a cash flow basis? So
Gotta increase your savings account.
Right. That's the answer.
And that's not 2019.
It will be stronger, but it will not be where we need it to be in order to say we don't need a TAN.
Is that 2020?
For fiscal year 2020, it will not be probably where we'd like it to be in order to say we won't need another TAN.
So we're looking at a three-year process.
At two, probably at a minimum.
Gotcha. point, we're gonna continue to lose money.
You're gonna,
For the interest that we have to pay.
that's correct. You're gonna pay an expense.
Are there any other questions? Turn your mic on.
How does a TAN impact our county? And I heard it has an impact on the credit rating. Is that clear? Or is it a loan against
Our future revenue.
our future money, correct? So what impact does that have on us?
What would be that interest, when you do the interest?
One of the things to note there would be that
Allow, they can answer.
So the interest that we, for our TAN was 2.99%, of 40 million. So every month that we had the TAN, we paid approximately $99,000, so almost $100,000 a month for the TAN. That's on $40 million.
$99,000 a month in interest on the TAN note?
On $40 million.
And this is something that we want to do again in this year?
It's not necessarily what we want to do, we have to.
We have to.
Mind you that because the cash reserve is so low, and we got to pay salaries every month until we receive our revenue from local taxes from the state, there's a potential that our revenue has gotten so low that we won't have enough funds in the account because our savings account is very low. And so the TAN helps us to make it through those periods. And as long as we paid TAN back, we paid the loan back, we got through the low cash flow months. We paid the TAN back. However, we'll continue to need a TAN, as I've shared in previous conversations about the budget, until we're at a point where I don't need to borrow $40 million from South Trust because we have $40 million sitting in our savings account that we can utilize to get us through those moments when the cash flow is, where we're still waiting on revenue, property taxes, etc.
Okay. I'll follow with other questions, but what I'm wondering is it sounds like the TAN is helpful to sit in the balance.
Well, it depends on how you look at money. It's helpful in that it gets us through periods so we can make payroll. It's not helpful in that we are paid and we pay interest.
Right.
So
Right.
It's not helpful in that regard.
Exactly.
Right.
Other ways.
Cost.
Is what I'm wondering, what other solutions, other counties and things have done, but
The solution is to have a healthy fund balance.
But we take a TAN and we increase the millage rate.
We're at the maximum millage rate here in Clayton.
Right.
The board did that this past budget cycle
Yeah, and there's another one coming up, right? Another bill for the millage.
to either maintain the current millage rate or to roll it back.
Right. Okay.
But we're at the max that the law allows for millage rate.
Exactly.
Mr. Stricker, did you have?
No.
Mr. Dorr, will you? Sorry, any other questions? Okay. We're ready to go on to the SPOS revenue.
The SPOS revenue report. This report includes our monthly balance sheet for SPOS in addition to the monthly cumulative average collections to date. We also received a question regarding the SPOS revenue, which was why is our revenue for SPOS about $1 million less compared to the same time last year? And so the answer is on the report, you would notice that we have SPOS revenue in one column, and we have the Delta grant in another column, which is about $1 million. But we wanted the board to be aware, as well as the community. You know, we have a grant till the end of 2019. So after that, you know, we may have a $1 million deficit.
Are there any questions, Mr. Stricker? Okay. Anyone else on that end? All right.
Are we good?
Yes. We're at the SPOS construction update. Mr. Running Judge.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Beasley.
For the month of December, 6 payments were made, totaling $4,033,240.19. There was one deductive change order issue for Arnold Elementary School, the amount of $35,101.21. I'll be glad to answer any questions about ongoing projects.
I didn't want to delay, but how are we with the pace of the school? Did everything get pretty much finished over the holidays?
Yes, ma'am. Ready to go. Honestly, tonight.
Okay. My only, I need you all to please be in the vicinity tomorrow, because we're back to school, and I'm just very interested in how the traffic flow. Okay. Yes.
The Still Road project is still ongoing with the county. I would say about 3/4 of the way, from Amble Block to Stagecoach. The final connection is probably, I would say about a month away. Phase 2 is improvements along Stagecoach and then.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. So at this time, personnel changes report, Dr. James Wilson.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the board, Dr. B. The personnel changes report summarizes all personnel actions for the period of November 15th through December 13th, 2018. In reference to teacher vacancies, we are approximately 96% staffed. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the student dress standards. Dr. Brown Nelson.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Beasley, other members of the board and the community. It is recommended to the board to amend the policy and regulation for the school uniform dress for grades 9 through 12 students to allow them to wear appropriate everyday attire. That's been presented before you. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask this time. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Simpson, have you talked to the principals, especially the high school principals, and can you give us some feedback on what they said as far as the attire and for the dress policy?
Yes, ma'am. There are a good number of them that's behind me and here in full support. There are over a series of meetings with the high school principals particularly. We engaged in a conversation that actually led us to this point. So it's them and their forthright thinking that got us to this point, but they are elated, excited about the fact that not necessarily having to enforce uniforms, because I don't want anyone to think on the board or anyone in our community to think that we are lowering our standards. But to have to take a child out of the classroom and they miss instructional time because of a belt or a shirt is not what we're trying to do, especially as it relates to advanced learning. So the principals that are in support and those that are here, I'd like for those to stand, high school principals that are here, what they represent. I think that just by their presence here, there are others certainly. I'm full support.
Yes, I just don't sit down, you all. Can you stand back up, please? Are you all in support? Just a nod of the head or something, okay?
Yeah, don't play that.
Okay. Dr. Anderson.
And also, the reason why we first enforced it, just to kind of let everybody know, we had a lot of gang activity in the schools and colors and all this, that, and other. So like I said, I will thank you all. But if we start going back down that same road, then they're going back in uniforms.
So into that point, and there's some research in this state particularly, and specifically in the state of Georgia, that most of the schools, or the majority of schools in the state of Georgia that have mandatory uniform are schools where they're children of color. Enforcing student uniforms and dress codes is very, very subjective. And it's subjective, it means that what I feel about what's a uniform violation may be different than what someone else feels. That lands a child in school suspension, being removed from the class. We want to focus on making sure that our children maximize their instruction and being in class as much as they possibly can.
I just wanted to say, in reading the policy, I've been in favor of this because I visit schools all the time. And I mean, just when I drive down my street in the morning, most kids are not in the uniform dress. And I think that's the other thing we need to clarify. Our students did not wear uniforms. We had uniform dress because we can't require uniforms. The only thing that I'm worried about, though, is I looked at your policy regarding these jeans, and you say that they can't wear jeans that are torn, but so many jeans that are purchased, that's how they are made. So that may be another problem for you all. I think you might need to look at, how, don't just put them out because they have a tear or whatever, because, a lot of us, I have some jeans, and I think I'm looking real good with my jeans with the tear. So that is something to think about. The other question is, since you said this now, we do have a school that actually wears uniforms, and that is elite scholars. So this excludes elite scholars or what? Because some of them might want to decide they're going to buck the system and not wear their uniforms to elite scholars. They're no longer a charter, they are a high school. So how does this affect elite scholars?
Well, that was an option that we, of course, we laid that on the table. That school, that principal elected not to be a part of it. They wanted to continue. I was surveying the students there, as well as the parents, that they continue on with the uniforms.
Okay. All right. Ms. Burns?
Oh, I think just as much time is going to be spent on a line of clothes that are out now. Before we got uniforms, it was a problem because of the things that students wore that just were inappropriate. That's both girls and boys. And so I think we're just taking a turn around and we're going to have to come back.
So, and I agree with you.
I don't agree with that. I think that the uniforms are affordable to parents. They finally figured that out. And what about the 10th graders that have a closet full now, and then next year they don't have to use them? You may get some flack for that.
Yes, ma'am. So to address both of your points, yes, it will be a change. To the fact that they're having the latitude to not wear uniform, I think we all have to be realistic. Clothes, even those that are not uniforms, can be worn in public. You can wear anything in a public, regardless of whether it's a uniform or not. We are stressing a dress standard and an expectation, regardless of what it is that you don't underlie. That's what the principals have decided. Before we marched down this road and this track, we decided that we were going to make certain that we address the standard and the expectation. We expect our children to look a certain way, regardless of what type of clothing it is. That is what I can guarantee. We're not just dismissing what and how we expect our children to look as it relates to an appearance. The appearance is still going to be one that we believe that supports and also speaks for this particular school district. We are behind that 100%, but this is the standard. This is the standard. Your second point, for those 10th graders, even the standard of the dress code itself, as it speaks now, the latitude afforded was for those children to still buy things and wear things that were fashionable within the uniform dress code. So they just won't be all out. Yes, there'll be some that may have to put their khaki pants and their polo shirts to the side, but they still have the leisure and the latitude to wear those clothes that they purchased. That's why we want to bring it to the board in January, so that they have the remainder of the school year and then be ready in the summer and fall as we return to school.
Ms. Baker?
Okay, when they decided to bring this policy to us many, many years ago, I told them that I didn't care what color clothes the kids wore if they were sagging pants. My whole thing is, sagging pants came out of a jail system. I don't think that if we're talking about higher standards, our children shouldn't look like they just come out of the jail system, and I'm sorry if that offends people, but my daughter's friends shouldn't have to look at young men's underwear, and I have seen young men sagging skinny jeans. So I don't know how you can do that, but they have. And my point is, I want a standard that says I don't have to see your underwear. If my daughter can't walk in looking like that, my young men shouldn't walk in looking like that. I didn't allow it for my son. I didn't allow it for the kids that walked in my house. And I think this is our house. And we expect children, if you want to wear jeans, I'm all for you wearing jeans. I don't even care if there's holes in the knees. But if your underwear is showing, that's a problem.
And that's the problem with me. So as a principal, there's a certain degree of moral and purposeful intent. As a former principal, it was personal for me that a young man couldn't show his underwear. That's why I sense it. I can't speak for every principal. That is personal for them. It should be, because that's our expectation. In moderation, is that the expectation? Absolutely. But is every principal going to run down the hallway when they see sagging pants? Because they will see them. Let's be realistic. There will be some that will sag their pants. But we're not going to pull that child out of class in their classes every time we see sagging pants. We're going to address it. I know I can see it, and we'll see it when I go to Lovejoy High School and Morrow High School and the others that as these principals and assistant principals and teachers are in the buildings when the students are transitioning in the hallway. It's as simple as check yourself, pull that up, tighten up, pull up your pants. That is the rhetoric, that is the language that's spoken every single day during every single class change. I have to do this as a principal. The teachers have to do it. That's the ritual and routine that has to be in place as it relates to the culture of that school. It takes every single person. Don't cross the threshold of this classroom door with your pants sagging. It has to mean something to the teacher. But moreover, it has to mean something to the parent. It has to mean something to the parent that allows that same child to walk through their door with their pants sagging. So we're reinforcing, we're instilling, we're implementing, we're establishing a foundation that may not be instilled at home. But we don't want to spend all of our time at this very is what we're saying. Because the principals are having to spend a great deal of time. And it's removing children from class. And that's not what we're trying to do.
Mr. Stricker.
So Dr. Simpson. Dr. Simpson, that's fantastic. But when it does happen, what's going to be those next steps?
The same process. If a child was inappropriately dressed, we pull that child and give them an opportunity to call a parent if the clothing is inappropriate. If the clothing is, so when we talk about inappropriate, remember this child, this young lady, or this young man, because I don't want to be stereotypical. If this child is going to be a distraction to their classroom setting, the teacher can't teach it, the children can't learn. So we have to at least provide some alternatives. The principals have alternatives. They have closets. Many of them have clothing, shirts, pants in their buildings that they can afford the child to have the opportunity to choose to put on a shirt or blouse. But we hope and we expect that the parents that will work in conjunction with us will assist us in bringing that child some additional clothing.
So we do have a
that process is in the park. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson. Yes, I want to go on record that I am against this changing the policy. I believe that we need to be teaching our children to respect themselves. And I believe that being in a uniform is more respectful than being in street clothes. If you look, per se, at the military, the ROTC kids, they just look so appropriate and standardized. I just don't want our children to come down a notch with this new dress appropriate code. They didn't necessarily dress for the uniforms. So what makes anybody think that they're going to dress appropriate with this new policy?
I would like to add before you say anything else. I think we pretty much hear everyone's opinion. I would like for you all to click on the information that was given to us, look at the survey, and remember yourself when you were in high school, and remember that while we are sitting here giving our own opinion, we are not the ones who go to school every day with those clothes. We are also not the principals, the teachers, or the faculty that are spending so much time trying to make children wear a uniform dress. Clean clothes, regardless of whether they're uniform dress or whether you want to say street clothes, because if that's the case, all of us are in street clothes, and I think we all look pretty good. But I understand, you know, we had an original purpose, but if you all would actually go into these schools and see how much time, we are spending more time on trying to make kids wear a colored shirt and khaki pants than we are teaching an algebra that Dr. Lee was just speaking about, or teaching a foreign language or whatever. I see Mr. President, and I see, and I'm going to let
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Did you want to say something as well, Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Madam.
And then we need to try to move on.
We're going to move on, right? Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the floor. One, if you want to talk about uniforms, they would say in uniform. Two, if you got the wherewithal to fix the problem, and what we're talking about for our sagging, you got $1 million industry that you can fix, because none of us like to see that. I know for sure I don't like to see young men underwear. I taught mine not to do it. The young ladies just as bad. I mean, tight-fitted clothes. So we can't just, focus on one thing. But once again, I think if you allow people to wear what they desire, they might pull them up. They may dress like they should. But you got to remember, once you were a teenager and you didn't do everything you should have done when you was going to school. And you may have left home one way and got to school a different way. Maybe you didn't grow up in that area, but I did. My dad said, this is what you wear. I went in my room, got my bag, stuffed my bag. I wore what he told me to wear. Once I got to school, I was a different guy. So, I appreciate the fact that we're allowing kids to express themselves through their clothing. Because the uniform was worn and they was trying to make it look good. So, thank you, Dr. Simpson, for what you've done, and the team, what you've done. These principals know what these kids want in school. And if you read the survey, everybody was saying, we want to get rid of this. The majority of them. Go ahead, yeah.
I'm a firm believer that students are not products of their environments, but products of their expectations. So I'm just thinking about countywide norms, and the difference in what we expect of elite scholar students and the difference on the rest of the county, and what spoken or unspoken impact that has on any number of things in our county. So I am a fan of the uniform because I think that that's actually where PBIS comes in. I've been a high school teacher and I know the challenges that it comes with. But I think that that's also the point of incentivizing behaviors we want to see instead of giving consequences for negative behaviors, especially when it comes to scholars missing class time. Because I agree, I don't think scholars should lose class time because they didn't have on a belt. However, there should be consequences if a belt is required. On the flip side, we can also
incentivize and give points or whatever that school-wide PBIS system for the scholars who are doing the right thing, so that we can just encourage the behaviors we want to see. It's just my opinion on the record.
Is there someone else on this end?
Could we pull that down?
Just a moment. Did you want to say something about this?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Clearly, you all can see that the issue is a very complex issue. And I want us to understand that's why we're teaching in our school system critical thinking. Oftentimes, we want to solve the problem using simple measures, and the problem is not a simple problem. Our students come from basically thousands of different households. And if they all came from your particular household, maybe they would all know how to dress. Or they may know how to dress, but from the household that they're from, they think that what they're dressing in is appropriate. So our responsibility is to create a culture of high expectations. The uniform, the data is very clear. While it may be well intended, and you're talking, I'm speaking from someone who I was a teacher in a school system that implemented uniforms. I was a principal in a school system that implemented uniforms, and I can tell you that all it did was create a whole bunch of, took a lot of my time away from talking about teaching and learning. Teaching and learning. Our principals are very clear. They know their job. They know the expectation. We expect students to dress appropriately. A uniform basically means you have to wear a certain color in your pants or your shirt. What we're saying is we don't want to tell our high school students that they have to wear a certain color pants or a certain color what? Shirt. But we do expect our high school students to dress appropriately, to dress according to a standard. All we're trying to do is while we ramp up high expectations, advanced learning expectations, the students through our various conversations with the student, and our students are very respectful, and I want everyone to understand this. Let's not, I don't know, I wasn't here when we implemented the dress code. I've heard drugs and gangs and things of that nature, but I want you to go into our high schools every day. Our students are good kids. They go to class every day. I don't go into any high school, and I've been to plenty in America. And our kids are out of control. That is not our kids. Our kids are good kids. When they come to us, when we have advisory meetings, and they say, Dr. Beasley, or Dr. Simpson, or Dr. Smith, or whoever, or principal, can you all consider maybe allowing us to maybe not necessarily wear the uniform? Yeah, we would consider that. Why? Because we're trying to teach our children in the high school experience that you're on your way to adulthood. And I want you to know that as your superintendent, I do hear you. I do have expectations of you as well, academic expectations. But if there's an opportunity for us to provide you some latitude, as long as you meet our expectations, I'm willing to do that. It's a part of training and living a democracy. And so, it is not an easy solution. If you read the survey, and if you've read it, and it's out there for anyone to see, our community is all over the place. What I'm asking this community to do as a superintendent and the team, representing this team, we brought to you a recommendation to say, basically, give us a chance to try to address a very complex issue. I know you all have feelings. All of you been to school. School has looked differently in all the schools that we've gone to, that we've been a part of. What we're asking you to do is let us work with our principals and our parents to implement this standard at the high school level as we ramp up advanced learning expectations and we continue to create a culture of high expectations for all students in our schools. All of you have a valid point. Everybody up here is right. It speaks to the complexity of the issue. Therefore, our work is to work collectively with our principals, with teachers, and other staff members, parents, and students to ensure that we create a culture of high expectations where they are meeting our expectations towards ensuring that they are prepared for post-secondary options. We understand how everyone feels. I've had individual conversations with everyone up here. I'm asking you all, on behalf of our high school students, to let's give them a chance, and just as we regulate or vote this in, we can change it if we see. But I can assure you right now, our discipline in this county is improved greatly. All of the indicators that we're monitoring are improving significantly. I challenge you to walk into our schools. I wish I could say, as Dr. Simpson shared, that some of our kids we won't have to tell to pull up their pants. The truth of the matter is, I wish I could say on any given day in Clayton County or any other county somebody doesn't run the red light. But someone does. But we have measures in place to address that, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
At this time, I'm going to just ask the board members, do you all, you need some time to think about this and we just pull it from the consent agenda? Okay, I'm going to say, well, the only thing, I can't get a grasp of how we want to vote tonight. And I think at this time, I would just like to pull it because.
But it probably should be pulled because it's a policy change.
Right.
And I believe it has to sit for how many days?
Right. Yeah, I think we need to pull it, and then also for everyone, as Dr. Reese said, we all have strong opinions. But we are not, these 9 people up here are not the high school principals. And we can all have our opinions, and if, I think at some point we need to respect our staff. If our staff has stood here and told us what they think is best for them, and we're not going to listen to it because we talked about elite scholars, but the difference between elite scholars and the other high schools is the elite scholars was a charter school. And believe me, they don't want to wear those uniforms. And those uniforms, just because they wear those uniforms, it really doesn't make them better students than these other students are, because you must also remember that elite scholars is a school that if you don't maintain a certain GPA, you are not going to remain there. And I'm going to single out Ms. Miller Brown at Riverdale High School, who has what I say real school. She's got the scholars, she's got the boys in the hood, the girl in the hood, and everybody else, but she's over there achieving. And they are wearing a uniform dress. They're not wearing uniforms. You all keep saying they're wearing uniforms. You can't make anybody wear uniforms. And that has become the problem because we also have some rebellious parents now who are telling their kids they're not going to wear what we say. So I don't understand why we keep having this battle. We're going to pull that from the agenda. We're going to think about it, and we'll come back and have a vote on it or amend some things. You don't need a motion, we just want to pull it from the agenda. What we need right now, because I was even when we were going to vote, I was going to actually ask us to vote that separate, but we now need to look at the consent agenda. Thank you, Dr. Simpson. We have, at this time, we do have action for the consent agenda that includes the purchasing report, the financial report, SPLOS revenue report, SPLOS construction update report, personnel changes report. Are we ready to vote on those items, or do we need to pull any of those to vote separately? Dr. Anderson. So moved, Madam Chair. I have Mr. Christmas. Okay, we have a motion to vote on the consent agenda. Please give me your pleasure. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It looks like I see the unanimous vote. That's the consent agenda. All right, you all, it's 7:46. This game starts at 8 o'clock. Now, we need one more thing here. We have the adoption of board meeting calendar for 2019. I'm going to ask the board, I want you all to be aware of the fact that on the next board meeting, 3 of us will not be in attendance, and there's possibly another board member. 3 of us will be at a conference in Washington. We'll be doing some work at an advocacy conference. There's a possibility that 4 48